I feel Michael at the age of even 4 years old, 5 years old, when I first heard him sing and saw him dance, I knew that he was something special, because I used to wonder how he do this, you know, and it was more than just a little boy or a little kid just singing and dancing. It was something unique about it. It was special. Well, life was fun in those days. We were all just a bunch of kids running around 2300 Jackson Street and singing and dancing to every song that came on the radio, the old Motown things, and that whole thing, shoveling walks, playing in the snow, having snowball fights, and things that little brothers and sisters do. My parents are musically inclined. My mother is a good singer, and she also plays clarinet very well. And my father was in a group called the Falcons, and he sang and played a little guitar. So I think it was something in the bloodline, you know. Yes, it was a musical family, and it was passed along. I feel that, yes. There's a few ways that the group started, I feel, you know, one of them being that my mother being such a singer, and she used to wash dishes and that whole thing and sing songs, and we would sing along with her. Back in those days, like I was saying earlier, that Michael was unique. He came out just knowing what to do. His pitch and his tone of his voice was unique. He needed very little training. He knew exactly what to do, and I think that's what made Michael very special from that day, ever since he was a little 4 and 5 year old kid. We did covers from the Temptations to the Miracles to the Four Tops to Sly and the Family Stones, James Brown. We covered every song that was on the radio. I learned every song that was on the radio. It was a lot of work. We would go to school in the morning. Then after school, we get home about 3:30, and my father have all the mics set up and the amps on standby. And we had enough time to just drop our books, and we would practice like 4 hours until about 7 or 8. And after that, you know, we would get ready to go to Chicago or somewhere and go do engagement. We had like 4 or 5 different sets. We would play for 45 minutes and take 15 minutes off and do our homework and get rest in between those 15 minutes. And by the time we was through with our day, it was about 2:30 in the morning. And we'd drive back from Chicago to Gary, get home about 3, 4 in the morning, and go to school the next day. And that's what life was for us for many years, a lot of work. I didn't realize how much work it was involved. I was just having fun doing it as a kid. I know I was tired a lot, and even coming home from the shows, because we had this Volkswagen van, and it was stuffed with amplifiers and equipment, and we used to have to, there was no seats in it, so we would sit and sleep on the equipment, and it was very uncomfortable, but we did it. I was there and I was blown away, and that was the very first time I had heard Michael sing, because back in the day, the group started with myself, Jackie, and Jermaine, and Michael and Marlon were just little kids, because Michael's 5 years younger than I am, and that's a lot when you're a kid. And we used to tell them to be quiet, get out of here. We kick them out the room and this, and they used to beg to be in the group. And we just said, your little brother wants to be in the group. You know, you used to, no, get out of here, you know, this is big boy stuff. And we went to see him perform that time, and our mouths flew open. We couldn't believe it. So we rushed him home immediately, took him to the room, and he was in the group that fast. The typical set list for the Jacksons back in those days would be basically a roster of Motown songs. Everything from My Girl, Ain't Too Proud to Beg, some of Smokey stuff, going to go-go. I mean, anything and everything that was Motown, the Jackson 5 learned. So we definitely did plenty of Motown. And also Michael used to love to do the James Brown. So we did some of James Brown stuff as well. But we learned everything that was on the radio, from Wilson Pickett to the Bee Gees to James Brown to the Temptations, Four Tops, all of them. Sly. My first record, I Want You Back, being played on the radio. The first time I heard it, I was at home, and I had bought a transistor radio just to hear that, and I was listening to this station, KGFJ, and I knew they would play it first. And one morning, I turned on my radio, and there it was. And I ran around the house, and my brothers-in-law, we were all excited, and the rest is history. Yeah, Michael was unique. Michael was a little genius. You know, he was a young little boy with an old man's soul. So yeah, he was very wise, very keen on his surroundings and everything else. He knew exactly what he was doing and what was going on. Even back in Gary, he was doing that. And I think what gave him the idea is we had this, we looked at him as an older guy, but he was only a teenager then, a friend in the neighborhood who had a candy store in his basement. A guy named Charles, I believe was his name. And Charles would sell us candy. And I think Michael got the idea from him, and Charles would sell it at a discount store, at a discount price, because there was a store down the street that sold it for more, so he would steal the customers. So Michael had started a candy store, and my father had gotten mad at him because he was buying candy with his money and giving it away so he can have customers. So my father got upset at that and taught him that if you're going to spend your money, the idea is to make a profit, you know. So I think that's where he got some of his business sense from that moment. We were very excited. Well, it actually didn't just start like that. We were in New York City, and we had just finished performing with James Brown. We were opening up for him. And we had a choice to either go and, I think it was David Frost show. Either David Frost, Dick Cavett, I can't remember, or go to Detroit and audition for Motown. And half of the group wanted to go to the TV show because they felt that we would be seen globally, rather than auditioning for Berry Gordy, one person. What if he say no? But I think my brothers were such Motown fans. They went with the Motown thing and took their chances, and we were very nervous about it. Michael and the Jackson 5, back in the Motown days, early in our career, I think we were just kids. We didn't realize all the great accomplishments that we had achieved. For our 5 #1 records in a row for Motown, never done before. We didn't know anything about that. What do that mean to 5 kids having fun? You know, seeing Hollywood and playing with Diana Ross, and just, I mean, we were in heaven. Just those things alone was priceless to us. Regardless of the music, was just something we did. As far as what I did as a kid, you know, what kids do or hang out or go out and do things that, you know, you do at a young age. Mine was very minimum. All the time on the road, all the time on the stage, all the time in an interview, all the time in a recording studio, a photo session, or autograph signings. It was like that all my childhood, just about, you know. I think Michael was put on this earth to do what he did. He never complained about nothing. Matter of fact, he was very excited about everything. You know, he loved the stage. He loved the interviews or the photo sessions. And not only did he just was there, but he would offer great ideas and they would work and stuff like. So he had a lot of input on directions and style and all these other things. Now, the first time I saw myself on TV, I think it was the Ed Sullivan Show. And I remember that show quite well in New York when we did it. And someone had taped it for me because it was a live show. And I had later on went home and watched it on TV. So that was the very first time. Yeah, very exciting. People are basically, the way they were raised is the way the parents raised is the way they raised their kid. They say the apple don't fall too far from the tree. And you know, there's all type of speculations, accusations on how I was raised. And for me, I think I was raised right. You know, I think my father did a brilliant job knowing that he had 6 boys, 9 kids in total, and to take us from Gary, Indiana, which is a very poverty-stricken town, and don't too many people get out of there and make something of themselves. And he had a dream, he had direction, and he stuck with it, and he knew how to get there, and he got us there. And I tell people every day, my father did a brilliant job, because when you're a child, your childhood is only that long compared to your manhood. So a lot of people go, well, he's only going to be a kid a little long, let him do this, let him do that. No. It's okay to have fun sometime, but you have to prepare yourself, because your adulthood is going to be a lot longer than your childhood. And if you didn't prepare for it, you're going to be on the late show. And so I think my father prepared his sons for the future to be men. We were men at a very young age. And like I always say, Michael was a boy with the old man's soul, you know. You know, I think my family is closer than most families. And we're just in the limelight, we're in the media's eye or whatever, or the people want to sell their stories in their papers, so they fabricate a little bit. But put it this way, I wouldn't want any other mother or father or brothers or sisters. I love my family. I think it's a unique family. No, I think it's something that the brothers and I always wanted to do, and the only change that it had made for us is basically getting out of the poverty of Gary and our dreams coming true and living our dreams and making people happy. And we were happier people then, you know, and I don't think, as a lot of people would think, show business changed you. I don't think it was like that. Of course it changes you, but I think it was more of a gradual change, especially being children, because my father kept a strict eye on us. Although we were in the business, in this fast-moving business, my father was still strict. And that's what you have to be, you know. When you got 10,000 girls trying to get up to your son's hotel room, and everybody trying to pull at him and push him this way and that, you got to be tough, and he was. So we were very anxious to start producing our own music after we had some success with the Motown record label. We were ready to grow. You know, we were now young adults, and we were writing songs, and our musical abilities had increased. And now we wanted to produce a few songs or write a few songs to show, you know, what we're able to do with the music. And we were able to do that at Epic Records. Sony Records allowed us to grow. That's why we left Motown and moved on to another label. And I don't think it was any hard feelings that we don't agree with Motown. It's just that Motown was used to, they had a cookie cutter with us. You know, they had a lot of luck with the group, and they didn't want to discontinue that. And we felt it was time to grow. We wanted to sell more albums and that whole thing. And Epic Records allowed us to do that. Epic was a different type of company than Motown. Motown was the type of company that they made you feel welcome. You know, it was a family atmosphere. You did picnics with the Gordies and played baseball, and they just made you feel more of a family atmosphere. Where Epic was more of a business. It was a machine. You know, you go to the studio. Here's your budget. We want you to deliver this record within the budget, and we want you to deliver a hit. So it was basically that. It was so many artists. The company was so big, it wasn't personal at all. Actually, it started way back in like 1971 or 2, when Michael came out with his very first solo record album, which I believe was Been or Got to Be There, one of those. And it was never meant for Michael to be a solo artist without, you know, leaving the brothers behind and you go on and do your thing, or like some of the other artists you get. It was, I think Berry Gordy saw a unique way to sell more records, you know, to build another artist out of this group. And because it wasn't just Michael who had that opportunity at a solo career. Jermaine did it as well. He had some hits with Motown, and so did my other brother Jackie. And then my brother Marlon did some solo stuff with RCA Records. So I think it was just a vision that Berry, and he was going to do that with every member of the group, because I was working on my solo album right before the group left to go to Sony Records, or at that time it was Epic Columbia, back in '75. So he had the dream of doing an album on each one of the brothers, because he did try a lot of different unique things with us that hadn't been done before, because we were more of a marketing selling tool for the company. I don't think anybody did anything without letting the other members of the group knowing what direction we're taking. So it was understood way back then that Michael's going to do a solo record, then Jermaine, then Jackie, then Tito, and so on and so on. Because after Michael did his first solo record, I can't remember the year, but there was quite a few Jackson 5 records after that and in between. And matter of fact, people don't know that, but every solo record Michael had, we sung on it. So it was a Jackson 5 record, but they put Michael's name on it. And some of his solo records on his solo albums were supposed to go on the Jackson 5 albums, but they were extras, so they just made another album and called it Michael Jackson and put it out. That's why we were on the backgrounds. You know, we were a team. I mean, everything was a team if you think about it. From when, you know, you have a job, you have a job, you have a job. You have a note to remember, the keys to remember, the songs, dancing to remember. And if you mess up, it's going to make me look bad. And if I mess up, so we were like this, you know, so we didn't have a time to critique and aggravate and tease. We knew we were a unit moving together. That's what made us unique. Everybody doing their part to make something great. Artists do that all the time, you know, and it's something that you have to do in this business, because when you wear the same shoes, sometimes people can get a little stale. So you always look for unique ways of changing your image, whether it's a glove or like my sister had the thing with the earring and the key, and it's surprisingly how these young people catch on to these little things. You know, and I think all that's part of creating an image. You know, from that to Michael had the jackets and all these little things that were unique and different from the next artist. And he was very good at recreating himself. Michael was Michael. You know, everything he did, he knew. I mean, he's a guy who knew that he would sell 40 million records before he did it, because he wrote it on his mirror when he was recording the record. And people thought he was crazy, you know, but he always had vision of what he wanted to do, where he wanted to be, how he wanted to look. So when you're writing on you're recording an album, you go, I'm going to sell 40 million records. And people looking at that said, this guy's nuts. Nobody's never sold more than 10 million records. How are you going to do 40 million? You know, but he taught us all something, and the business as well. I think that he got so huge that it was bigger than life, and it was uncontrollable as far as media speculations and all these things. And I think my personal knowing the little brother I had, even at a young age, how hard he worked his whole life. Couldn't walk down the street, couldn't go to a bar or a club, or didn't do anything. And people, I mean, Michael lived a very, very sheltered life. And so did Marlon, so did all the brothers, but his was really sheltered. And maybe he enjoyed it that way, I don't know, but I don't think I could have lived like that. I think being an entertainer myself, I think we all go through that where you wish you wasn't an entertainer, or you wish you could do something regular and things of that nature, but at the end of the day, it's the best job in the world. And I think there's moments when he wished he could just do whatever he wanted to do, whether it's just walk across the street or walk down the street all day and not be bothered, or go to an event. And if he did anything, he had to disguise himself all the time and take him 2 or 3 hours to get in all this makeup that would transform him into a different person as far as the looks. So I'm pretty sure there was times when he felt that, you know, I wish I was someone else or other than an entertainer. He loved his job, but we all go through that, wondering if we wasn't this, what would we be? Well, I always felt a little sad for Michael because he just didn't do the things that normal people do, you know. And even with myself, I mean, I look at my life as somewhat normal. It's not normal, but it's a little normal. But judging my life to his wasn't nowhere close, you know. I don't know if I could enjoy life like that. You know, it gets to a point where it can become almost too much. I think Michael's greatest achievement throughout his life was making people happy, helping people. That's what he always wanted to do and achieve, to do something for the world, more so than his music and his song. I think he got more gratitude out of helping somebody through college, or somebody need an operation, or there's some sick children over here, or family starving and need food. He would send over groceries for a year, things like that. And I think those are the things he really wanted to achieve that was beyond the music, is to give back and share it and make people happy, and to be a giving and caring and loving person. I think that's where he really got his enjoyment, seeing somebody sad become happy, you know, by his will. I think that made him feel good. Well, we have a lot of great memories, like we were saying, from the auditions with Motown and performing with the James Browns and traveling overseas or going to Africa for the very first time. And everything was it was an experience. And when you think about it, it all was fun, even the scary moments of being chased by an auditorium full of fans because your equipment and your costumes didn't show up, and they're all waiting for a show, and you're not going to do a show, so you go out there and announce we can't do a show, and they chase you out the arena. That was all fun for us. A lot of great memories. But my funnest moment, I would have to say, was probably hearing that song on the radio for the very first time and sharing it with my brothers, and we all just there listening, and some of us talking, I was like, be quiet, you know, I want to hear this, you know, so those type of little things you remember well, because they were so important to hear your record for the very first time, something you've been working all your life for, and finally you got there. The world has, and the media and everyone has been very kind and very supportive, and they finally have told the truth, because they knew all along, a lot of them did, and who Michael Jackson really is. When they really look at his life, you can see who he is, and he's done more for this world than a lot of our politicians has done, and I'm just happy that he's in a better place, and he's not suffering from all the crap that I know he was going through. And it's sad that he left so young, you know, and so young. He has so much to give, though. He wasn't finished. I think Michael should be remembered a few ways. I think he should be remembered for the entertainer that he is and all his great accomplishments. But he should also be remembered as a great humanitarian, because he did do a lot more than any other entertainer in the business, financially and spiritually. And I just think he should be remembered as a person that was unique, special, and we've never seen a person like Michael Jackson in our life, and I doubt it if we will ever see it again.